Hello everyone, welcome to Anime Know Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Red-haired Shanks is the pirate with the highest bounty today, although he's not really wanted by the world government, nor is he ever chased by the Marines, and this is because of the great danger he presents worldwide. However, there are some Marines who are not afraid to go after pirates, such as some admirals, especially Akainu, who has a strong and rigid ideology of justice, pursuing any pirate regardless of the danger they present or the position they hold. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the reasons why Akainu has never ordered the capture of Shanks, at least not so far. And this is even after the fact that he's challenged him in the past, and we'll also talk about the reasons why the Marines nor the world government attack any Yonko. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like, and even subscribe, and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, the first meeting that at least we were privy to between Shanks and Akainu happened during the Battle of the Best in Marineford. And this is of course after several other things had already transpired, like both Ace and Whitebeard losing their lives. Shanks appeared almost out of nowhere at the end of the fight and prevented Akainu from taking the life of Kobe, who had been opposing the continuation of this unnecessary conflict. And many lives had already been lost, so there was really no point in keeping this fight going. But as Akainu was bringing down his lava fist, Shanks stopped it with his sword. And Akainu was shocked to see him in Marineford, as it had been reported that Shanks was just too far away because he was facing off against another Yonko, Kaido of the Beast Pirates. However, despite having head off Kaido and kept him from going to Marineford, Shanks was still able to quickly make it to the battle, and he was unharmed at that, meaning he either completely talked Kaido out of it, or maybe offered up something in addition that Kaido wanted more than the battle with Whitebeard, and still somehow quickly appeared in front of Akainu, intercepting his strike. Aware of the immense threat that Shanks posed, Akainu made no other attempt to attack him, although Akainu's fury increased because Shanks was serving as a distraction while Luffy escaped. Following the events in Marineford, Akainu never spoke about Shanks again. He never even thought about making him pay for the humiliation that Shanks caused him during the battle at that Marineford base. This could be due to the fact that Shanks is, after all, a Yonko, a highly powerful pirate, and throughout the story of One Piece, we've seen that Shanks only owns one ship with just a few very close crew members. But Shanks has many more allies than we may ever realize. Now, Shanks' main crew is extremely powerful, although they don't all have the same combat potential that Shanks has. Shanks could even have his very own fleet that are sailing around the world in search of gaining territories for Shanks. Yet the only part of Shanks' crew that we've seen is him and his main crew, and the story has just followed wherever he's happened to be at the time where the story reveals. Even one of the other Yonko, Big Mom, and Admiral Ryukyugu feared confronting Shanks. So should Akainu order his Marines to capture him, he would be greatly outnumbered. And even if Akainu chose to go after Shanks directly to confront him, this is something that would likewise be very dangerous for the Marine to do. Because should Shanks call out his fleet to succeed in attacking the Marines, this would provoke a major war between the Marines and the red-haired pirates. And the same goes for all the other Yonko as well. Although they are a great threat to the Marines and admirals, not even the fleet admiral can do anything against the Emperors of the Sea, just attack or at least admonish them for their acts. Because if the Marines were ever to attack a Yonko directly, it would be a huge disadvantage for them. And although Akainu may not care about the consequences, it would be something that he personally would do, but he just hasn't had the right moment or opportunity so far. Because as we know, Akainu is extremely strict and considerably a radical leader, according to an ideology that he calls absolute justice, faithfully following the laws that he considers to be able to make the world a better place. His derived motto is complete justice, which pertains to all Marines, and Akainu has a severe ideology, would be even dark and really inexpressive, really also being the most ruthless admiral among the three that we saw before the time skip. This has given him a very fearsome reputation, but what worries him most is his dogmatism, which could end up turning Marines into a force worse than the enemies they are pursuing. For Akainu doesn't just want to capture or imprison pirates. He wants to take all of their lives so that the Marines would never have to waste their time chasing after these criminals. Because in his opinion, they turn the world into a much worse place. Yet despite this belief, Akainu seems to be able to restrain himself, at least at certain times, having chosen to spare the lives of Jewelry Bonnie and her crew after they were beaten and tied up by the Blackbeard pirates. But from very early on, and even before Akainu actually became an admiral or even now fleet admiral, he had already had a really extremist behavior, having completely ideals from most of the other Marines. An example of this is that during the Buster Call attack on Ohara, Akainu destroyed a refugee ship full of innocent people and Marines simply because of the slight possibility that an Ohara scholar might be hiding among them, an action that disgusted Vice Admiral Aokiji. Akainu's logic was that if one of the Ohara scholars had escaped, the whole mission would have been a failure, and his extremism gave him this twisted behavior, causing him to do things far beyond what was ever necessary. So he is incredibly rigid and absolute in his belief, showing very little compassion for anyone or anything, and is willing to do whatever it takes to serve his own goals, or at least the world government's goal, no matter the cost. Akainu even sees the Marines as an extension of himself and his own beliefs, and he's willing to take the lives of those who disagree with him, and shows little or no care for the people placed under his charge. Now, although this has made him extremely powerful and feared among pirates, this same fear inspires discontent and hatred from his own Marines, causing him to lose very powerful allies, such as Aokiji, who deserted the Marines because he had disagreed with Akainu's extreme ideals. Even someone like Garp, who is a pretty hardline person, doesn't agree with Akainu's action. Going back to the Battle of Marineford, we saw that Garp was furious because of Akainu's fanatical obsession with destroying pirates, which resulted in Ace losing his life and Luffy almost losing his life as well. And the best example of these radical ideals is when he tried to take the life of Kobe, because all Kobe was doing was begging for everyone to stop fighting in Marineford, and had it not been for Shanks, Akainu would have quickly and easily taken Kobe's life. This extremism even led him to prevent Admiral Fujitora from entering a Marine base just because he went against his orders during the Dressrosa arc. Because Fujitora, like Aokiji, does not agree with Akainu's way of acting and believing. Fujitora even rightly pointed out that Akainu's version of justice has no credibility or honor, causing him to anger and flare up even more, seeing this as a personal disrespect from Fujitora. Unlike Sengoku, who did at least seem reasonable under most circumstances, Akainu says that any Marine that is not willing to fight for justice is not worthy of being called a Marine, as well as saying that deserters are a disgrace to their own family. And now as Fleet Admiral, Akainu is immensely proud to be occupying this position within the Marines, and his pride is so great that he prefers to cover up the ordeal to ensure that the Marines are known as those that judge evil. And this behavior even caused him to yell at the Gorosei, telling them to renounce Doflamingo's position as a warlord, because he knew that the mess caused by this person would affect the Marines' reputation. So this shows that he at least understands and knows the value of public trust, and he's always tried to avoid anything that might discredit the Marines, even going so far to not allow certain acts of the world government. A great example of this is when Fujitora and Ryukugyu were unable to capture Sabo. Akainu is currently doing everything he can to find out the real reason why the two admirals were unable to capture this very important revolutionary. And for all we know, Akainu may be the very source that has blamed the King of Alabasta's death on Sabo just so that it wouldn't fall on the Marines, just so they can still maintain their positive reputation around the world. Akainu is willing to lie and deceive his enemies and even his allies to achieve the justice that he follows. And so far, at least it seems, that Akainu's manipulations have been pretty much successful. For instance, when he managed to trick Squard through a strategy made by Sengoku, or even when he insulted Whitebeard to make Ace angry enough to stop his escape attempt and turn around to fight him. Although he's very reckless and extremely strict, Akainu knows how to work with caution, taking care in every step he takes during combat, and not only his steps, but also those of his companions and allies. For example, when Kizaru offered to go to Wano to confront the pirates who were fighting, Akainu stopped it because the Marines were currently unaware of the power of the various fighters in Wano, so he chose to wait until the confrontation was over. In fact, Akainu only allowed Ryukugyu to interfere in the fight in Wano because he was already near Wano. And even though he allowed it, Akainu told him to be very careful with all the enemies present. And we also see that the Marines tend to meddle in the affairs of Iyanko only because they're not their main targets. In fact, Kaido was too concerned with the alliance with the citizens of Wano made with the pirates So we see that the Marines may only meddle in the affairs of a Yonko when they're not necessarily their main targets. For example, Kaido was way too concerned with the samurai pirate mink alliance in Wano, and he ended up totally ignoring the presence of CP0. And it was only after Kaido was defeated that Ryukugyu arrived in Wano, because the Admiral didn't then have to worry about confronting the Yonko, allowing him to act in Wano, but with the presence of another Yonko, Shanks, the Admiral did have to flee. So as we can see, it's only when the Marine is not the main focus of a Yonko that they may come into play, because a direct confrontation between these two organizations and two bodies would never be a good outcome for the world. And it's because of this reason, this pillar in the world that the Yonko provide, that Akainu avoids going after Shanks or any other Yonko to confront them. But there would be no confronting Shanks or another Yonko if necessary. Yet in the future, we may see a major battle brewing in the future where Akainu is gonna decide to go after some Yonko. A confrontation that even could decide the fate of the entire world of One Piece. But with all that said, my friends, we'd love to know what you think about it. Why do you think Akainu has always kind of been careful with the Yonko? Do you think it's because he's required to and somehow plays into his sense of justice? Or is there something else about these Yonko that we don't know? Because, to be honest, we know Akainu has haki, but the question is does he have Conqueror's haki? Also, what do you think it would take for Akainu to finally go after a Yonko? Now, let's of course keep Luffy off the table because we know Akainu has a very special hatred for Monkey D. Luffy. However, what do you think it would take for Akainu to go after, say, Shanks or Blackbeard? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we bring our video to a close, I want to thank all of you so much for watching the video all the way up to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in the next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.